This painting dried out very prettily, and I really love the colors and the mixtures. I love this pearlescent down here. There just isn't enough pearlescence throughout. Somehow it seems to have gotten lost. You can see traces of it in the little pearls and cells that have formed. But overall, I think it will be better for me to turn this into something more. And so I'm going to turn it into this little elephant, which I painted in oil. And I'm going to start with the head of the elephant up here, and then down this part with the pearlescent will be the water pond that they're drinking from. I think that will be a good use of it, so that's what I'll do. And I'm using a silver marker pen just to do the outline, and I have to be very careful how I do it, because once I've got these lines in, it's hard to get rid of them except by painting over them, and I don't want to have to paint away what's inside this painting. So that will be one ear there, and I won't even go around that part. Maybe I'll make that line there. And quite a large elephant. That's my outline, and you'll see it's slightly different to this one in that I've put the elephant calf in front rather than underneath her. And the foliage I will paint on afterwards. And I'll have to paint away some of this blue in order to make the elephant more visible. That blue is fine because that's part of the sky. I'll see what I can do. I'll just put some green over it and leave bits of the blue in between. But first I will outline it with a soft grey, maybe with silver paint, I think, or silver mixed with white. And then I'll see how that looks, and I'll take it from there. So now, with a little of the silver that I've just squirted out of the tube and a paintbrush and some water, I am painting on the outline of the elephant. And it's going to be, just very little inside the outline that I've drawn, because I don't want to lose all these lovely colours. I mean, that's the whole point of using blowouts for something more, is to try and preserve as much of the colour as I can, either within the subject or on the outside. Now, in the outside, I can preserve the water, which has been created by this pearlescent paint and all these little puddles, and the sky, but I do need to add some foliage, and I do need to make sure that there is a separation between the elephant and the surrounding blue, where I am going to preserve some of the blue. And of course, that naturally formed an eye, that little dark center there. But and this is just the side view of that eye. But I think I still need to add some black perhaps in there. And here, these outer parts of the petal actually just formed almost the perfect shape for the ear. But yeah, I had to lose that part. But I tried including it, and it just made a very strange shape, so it wasn't. But I'm not going to just leave the marker pen as an outline. I must have paint all around. You can see how I have outlined the elephant so far, and I'm trying to keep this line or the outline as thin as possible, so that it's not a clearly wide line, but at the same time gives definition, and also inside the legs. And might not be the best brush because it's got this rounded shape, and if you want to do like in tight corners, it's better to have a flat angle brush. But I just took whatever was at hand, and I always managed to make do. But if you're new to painting, and anyone can do this kind of painting, but if you feel that you need the most help possible, then definitely a flat angled brush would be the best, because it gets you into all the tight places, gives nice straight lines when you need them. Whereas this is curved, it's not going to be a straight line, but I don't need straight lines right now. Maybe for the tusks it would be nice to have a straight angled brush, a flat angled. So with this acrylic pouring, it does help to have wet wipes, because you can wipe away the paint that you don't want while it's still wet. Don't wait too long, because then you will start messing up the painting underneath. And yes, I have, because I was turning this into an acrylic bloom originally, I have made the marks of the bloom inside there, and that's fine, because those are going to become the wrinkles of the elephant. And I will put some grey into those, just to show. On the other painting there were distinct wrinkles on the elephant. Their skin is not smooth. Perhaps the calf is smooth, but certainly not the adult. Even the calves seem to be a little bit wrinkled. So, but what I like about putting in these lines before you do the painting is that, depending on what you do, but usually on birds or flowers, it does just add some interest to have these lines in. The lines of a vine. I decided to cover the whole elephant with the silver, because the calf with the silver, because he was just too dark underneath the mother and not really visible. And of course there's going to be green and some mud around here, so and then the elephant will look more visible, but the calf still needed to be just a little brighter as it's closer by. And I'm just putting in the black with a very hard sort of pointed fine brush, and yeah, I think I could probably still put some white around those eyes too, but I'll let that dry first, because this is just pure paint and water. It's not the liquid paint. I sort of made an outline around the water pool there and here, but for the rest I'm leaving it exactly intact, and then I'll put I'm not sure if I should put mud or just greenery around here. And yeah, I need to get some sort of yellowy white for the tusks. Here with a little burnt sienna, but very watered down, I'm just creating a little bit of a muddy pool around the elephant. It's very thinned out, and I'll thin it out some more now with some water. And so you can still see the blue coming through from underneath, which just creates a lovely effect and lovely colours that, again, I would never get from painting those colours with a paintbrush. So I'll leave a little of the blue there, and here there'll be, in case I didn't say it at the beginning of the video, I'm sorry, but welcome to Graceful Art Designs. I may have forgotten. And now with some lovely emerald green, I'm just lightly painting in some greenery, some grass, some savanna grass, or whatever it is they're walking through, and it will blend in with the mud. Once the painting dried, it looked quite nice in the dark. It was glowing in the dark, but in the daylight I really don't like the look of the silver, so I'm going to go over it with some phthalo blue and see if I can get it more to my liking. So this time I'm using the flat angled brush, so I can see what I'm doing and delete what I don't like. And I think a darker outline and less silver would be a better option. But again, I'm just first applying the paint, and then I'll drag it in, because the Prussian, the phthalo blue is transparent. It might show a bit of that silver underneath, but that's okay. And I don't mind, and I want the colour to go in, to blend in with the rest of the colour. I don't want it to be an outline like it is at the moment. So I must work quickly and drag it in. It's already drying. The phthalo blue was the right colour, because it's one of the colours that was in the painting anyway. but it is a transparent colour, so it was still showing too much of the silver. I decided to go over it with some Prussian blue, which is also, it was in the painting, but I mixed the two together when I poured out the colours. But in the process I lost one of the eyes, so I'm going to put that eye back now with some white, hoping that will be visible. And then I'm going to add a little more colour in between the legs here. I need to put more of that muddy colour. And it's just the side of the eye, but it is important. So I'll have to cover that eyelid with some of the blue again when it's dry. And then the baby, the calf, that eye is also barely visible there. From underneath to show through in most places, which is fine, that's what I wanted. Yeah, I don't want to obliterate those colours. But here now it's just too dark in comparison to the rest. So I'll thin it out a bit. And then maybe drag that down a bit so it looks more continuous. Still a bit too thick. And then I'm going to add another little bit of colour into the green, into the foliage, because it's a bit too much just green and blue at the moment. So I've got a metallic orange, which I haven't used before. I'm going to try that and see what that does. See the effect of that. Just here and there on the leaves. So a bit of sunlight catching the leaves. Oh, it is bright. It's almost like copper. I was looking for rose gold, which they didn't have, so I ended up buying this. Well, in the jungle you will have lots of light in places and dark in some places, but that just adds something. Little gleams of it here and there. I think I can dilute that a bit. A little bit too strong. And that. It's quite transparent, so I added some white to it, and that made more of a muddy colour. And then I put that around the calf as well. He looked like he was standing in the water, so now he's just in front of the water. And yeah, I added another layer of the sailor blue around the hooves and just around the edges. The colours are quite blended, so you can't really see the distinction between the sailor blue and the Prussian blue. But I think the Prussian blue dominates because it's just a darker, well, it's not actually darker than the Prussian blue, but it's just a more of a, it's opaque for one thing, whereas the other was transparent, and also it's just more intense. So this is the part of the painting which is really intact from the blowout, and this inside the elephant is more or less intact, except where I've sketched in the edges and added all the different layers of colour. And you can see the colour as it's drying now. It's the design from underneath is showing through, which is nice. It's interesting. And even up here, a bit of blue behind the leaves. There could be clouds, there could be hills, whatever. And I'm happy with the painting. I think it compares well to the oil painting. And certainly there are some things like the mixture of the pearlescent. It could actually be the silver. I don't know if it is the pearlescent. But anyway, the pearls and lacing here are just so unique to acrylic pouring, and I love them, and I like to incorporate them in my paintings wherever possible. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and please like, comment, and let me know your thoughts. Bye for now.